Hey everyone, this season, don't just watch the games, win them with Pez'sPicks.com. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the man himself.
Thank you, Jeff. This is Pez. After years of giving away our picks on Instagram and beating the house, we've launched Pez's Premium Picks, an exclusive data-based picks based on our algorithm that's hit winners for the last 2 years.
Didn't that algorithm get you over 70% picks right in the NFL last year?
That's right, Jeff. Thank you. No gimmicks, just the pick we believe in. We're using the promo code Lock It Up this week on Pez'sPicks.com. After that, we're asking for a small donation to keep beating the house.
That's right. Use the promo code Lock It Up, all one word, for a free week of access at Pez'sPicks.com. That's Pez'sPicks.com. Check it out today.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
And we are live. What's up, everybody? My name is Garrett Chapman, and this is Falcons on SI. This is the Falcons Podcast with me, Garrett Chapman, your host. And we got some folks already starting to jump in. Very excited to do this podcast here on a Thursday, man. We're coming up on one of the biggest games of the early parts of the season. It's the Buffalo Bills, Monday Night Football. The air is starting to kind of get excited. You kind of feel some of that electricity coming up, and we have a lot to jump into here on the podcast tonight. I got 3 keys to a Falcons win. 3 keys. 3 things that I think are going to potentially decide the outcome of this football game, good or bad, but we'll get into all of that. I also have some injury updates, kind of things, where things stand. I literally, no joke, just got out of my car. We're going live here a little bit late, so I apologize to anybody who normally is, champing at the bit, trying to get on here on this live at 6 o'clock right off the jump. But I, no joke, just got out of my car. So I got inside and I just run all the way in, and I'm like, all right, let's do this podcast. Let's do it. And very excited to be jumping in with everybody. See some folks already starting to jump in. Make sure to like the podcast. Make sure to share it. Make sure to pass along to some of your friends and make sure that everybody can kind of jump in here and get some of this Falcons conversation going. But big thank you to everybody who jumps in. I see John Harrell. He says, good evening, my friend. Always good to talk to you. But how about this? Let's jump into our 3 keys. But we'll do that. We'll get some injuries. And then, of course, we're going to jump into your questions. So if you have comments, you have questions, you have things that you want to see or questions you want the answers to, I will be more than happy to answer as best I can. But again, make sure to share it with your friends. Make sure to share it along, and make sure to get a lot of more folks in here. Just talk some Falcons, build a little community here. So looking forward to that. Michael Baxter, my man, always good to see you over there on Facebook. Good evening, Garrett, and everyone at the Atlanta Falcons on SI. Good evening. Welcome in. Very excited to welcome you in, Michael. So let's jump right into this. Why don't we? Obviously, the Atlanta Falcons, they sit as a 4-point dog, 4.5 point, actually. You got to include the hook there on Monday Night Football. Game kicks off at 7:15. It's going to be an interesting one because this is a very good Bills team. This is a team who leads the NFL in terms of Super Bowl aspirations. If you want to put into betting odds, they are the number 1 team in the NFL. This is a team who knows exactly who they are. They've got an MVP quarterback. They've got an all-pro level running back, a guy who very much can get into that upper echelon of the NFL. I mean, this is a guy who's playing really, really good ball. They have a great offensive line, 2 bookend tackles who some could say are among the best in the NFL. So they run the ball well. They throw the ball well. They do everything really, really well. There's a reason this is a team who leads expectations for Super Bowl. That's why they're really good. Falcons, we're still trying to figure that out. I think anybody who wants to come out and say that they know exactly who the Atlanta Falcons are, I think they're either lying to you or they're lying to themselves a little bit. I think we have an idea of who we want them to be. We have an idea of who the Falcons are based off of things that we've seen during training camp or things like that. But no, as far as who the Atlanta Falcons are, it's been kind of up and down. You go back to what you saw of this team in week 1. All right, it's a gritty team. They just need to fix some special teams issues. Look, they showed some potential. They're getting good pressure on the quarterback. They're just not quite there to finish. And Michael Penix, you just got to fight the lulls, right? He started really strong in that game, and then you went through that very long period of not really getting a lot going. And then you finish it with, some really good play from Michael Penix in this offense. But they couldn't run the ball, which is weird, right? And then you go to Minnesota in week 2. And it's almost the inverse, right? Michael Penix isn't really doing a whole lot, but you're running the ball all over the yard, right? You go for 200 yards and you look great. The defense is hounding and harassing J.J. McCarthy. They get 6 sacks in the game. They get, 16 pressures in that one. The team looks unbelievable. They look like a legitimate contender in the NFC. Then they flip around and they lay an egg in Carolina, probably that's probably generous, right? So you answer that with, what you did 2 weeks ago, I guess it's now a week and a half ago, with the Washington Commanders. And really the offense really gets everything going. The offense pushes, and I got my puppy just rolled in. No, but everybody kind of gets going, and everybody got everything rolling in a big, big way, right? And then the defense isn't all the way there. They let Marcus Mariota and some folks trying to they kind of get some things rolling. They get some explosive running plays and things like that. But again, the whole point is it's a lot of this. It's a lot of this, and it's a lot of up and down. And ask any football coach. It's the most consistent thing is you don't want that. You want some consistency. You want to level things out. But to this point, we just haven't really seen that from this Atlanta Falcons team. I see some other folks start to jump into the podcast. I'm about to jump into our 3 keys for this Falcons game. Falcons team is going to come out and get a win. Get on the right side of 500 for the first time this season. Let's see. All coming through to Rusty Moore over there on YouTube. He says, in all seriousness, we've beaten 2 bad quarterbacks and lost to the only good one we played. I just don't see us taking out Buffalo yet. I feel like we are a year away. 2026 should be the year. Well, Rusty, I've actually said many times, I think I've said it on this podcast. I'm fairly certain I have. If I haven't, then I'm going to do it right now. 2026, I feel like, is the year that kind of makes the most sense for this Atlanta Falcons team, just based off of timelines and where they are and the way things are kind of setting up. Because you have Kirk Cousins coming off the books. You'll have Michael Penix getting that technically the year 2 bump, but really it's going to be the year 3 bump. He'll be coming back in and he'll be kind of a solidified starter at that point. Bijan Robinson will be entering year 4 at that point. Kyle Pitts, I would assume he's going to be on a franchise tag at that point, but this will be, if he's still here, year 2.5 of playing with Michael Penix. Same with Drake London, who'll be in his 5th year, who I'm assuming you're going to get a contract extension by that point. The defense with Jalen Walker and James Pierce and all these other guys, a lot of younger guys who will be starting to really find their legs in the NFL at that point. It's just based off of the way things have lined up. And you see the aggression that Terry Fontenot had in the offseason. It makes 2026 sound like it's going to make a lot of sense for this team. That's just my rationale with it as well. But this is also a team who can absolutely beat anybody in the NFL right now. We saw this team beat the Super Bowl winner last year, right? This is not a bad football team. This is a really talented football team, actually. And I've gone through and I've listened to a bunch of Bills podcasters and try to listen to as much as I can just as I prepare for the week. And I think they see that this is a Falcons team with a lot of weapons. This is a Falcons team. Hell, they're number 1 in total defense. And look, I don't put too much stock into total defense and total yardage and stuff like that. It's a grain of salt, I guess you could say, but it's not nothing. It's not nothing. It says that this team is pretty good, right? They have some strengths. They're actually a pretty solid bunch. And I don't want to discount that at all. The Falcons can absolutely win this game. They can absolutely win this game. Am I going to pick them to win? Probably not. Probably not. But I think that this is a team who can absolutely come out and get a win. I think the matchups actually favor the Falcons in this game a little bit more than one might believe, right? But saying that and getting over the hump and beating a team like the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, especially with them coming off of a loss, a team who's only lost 5 games since coming off of a loss, right? Just going back to 2020, Josh Allen's only lost 5 games after a loss. It's just consistent with this guy. He doesn't lose football games. Just doesn't happen, right? And that's what good teams do. Good teams find ways to win, right? And we're just trying to see where the Falcons are. We're going to see, it'll be a great a great decision maker on where they stand in that pecking order, right? And we'll see. We'll see. But I also, as far as beating the bad quarterbacks is concerned, I mean, you play the teams that are in front of you and you do what you're supposed to do. I mean, like, there are good teams who lose to bad quarterbacks all the time. These are professional football players. So I don't want to discount that too much. But I mean, your point is well received, Rusty. I do understand what you're putting down with this. I mean, it's not like Bryce Young did a whole lot to beat you in that game, but you still lost. You still weren't able to get things done. And even still with Baker Mayfield, I'd said multiple times that the Falcons were the better team in that game. I thought the Falcons really were, but ultimately you lost. Nothing else matters. That's what it all comes back to. But appreciate the comment. Appreciate the question. Rusty, I'll keep on rolling through. Michael Ronquillo, always great to get you in here. He always sends the red and black hearts, kind of setting the vibes and trying to get us all going on the right track. August 809. I'm serious, says Bills of Josh Allen. Other than that, they have nothing special talent-wise. Well, that's not totally true at all. They have the AFC Offensive Player of the Month in Cook, James Cook. I just blanked on James Cook's name. I've only talked about him 100 ways, 7 ways till Sunday. But no, James Cook. I mean, you've got him coming out of the backfield. This is a guy who can do a lot of different things, and he's dynamic. He's scoring a lot. And I mean, last I saw, he probably had like 500 yards or something in the first 5 games. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But again, to your point, and I think this is your point within the point, is that Josh Allen is the guy that starts and stops with what Josh Allen is able to do. And if you are able to corral him in some capacity, then you're going to give yourself an opportunity to win games. But that is easier said than done. I mean, you go through with what Josh Allen is able to do. I mean, there's a reason he's the reigning MVP. There's a reason people refer to him as the best player in the NFL today. It's because the guy can do everything. And Raheem Morris talked about it earlier this week, and he talked about it again today, just how this guy is unique. He's somebody who almost gets better when he goes off schedule. He's got elite arm strength. He's got elite physicality. His improvisational skills are spectacular. The Falcons, they're a good pressure team, but one thing that they've had to do a little bit is send extra bodies. If you send the extra bodies, sometimes if you lose containment, it makes things very difficult for the next level. And that's really what it comes back to. And I'll use that here for my first big point here. Point number 1 is stop the run. Stop the run. And you largely stop the Buffalo Bills. Again, easier said than done, but that's where it all starts. And this is actually one of those spots where I think that it kind of lines up pretty well for the Atlanta Falcons, because when they actually run out of their base defense, they're 16th in the NFL or so. Again, I don't put too much stock into where they stand just in total yards and stuff like that, but it still matters to some degree. It gives you kind of a snapshot of who the team is. But when they run out of their base defense, this team is actually pretty solid against the run. They've been pretty consistently good. It's just that they're not so good when they go into nickel. And that's where teams start ripping off the explosive plays and the big gains and everything else. Fortunately for the Falcons, and this is where it kind of lines up for them, the Buffalo Bills, I mean, they got a lot of tight ends, right? You know what they have. They're very similar to the Falcons in that way. They run a lot of 12 personnel. Sometimes they'll even run a 13 personnel where they're going to get 2 or 3 tight ends out on the field. This could really favor the Falcons because then they could stay in their base defense and they can actually, play the run pretty effectively. But it's important because if Buffalo is running the ball really well, that is when Josh Allen becomes just that next level of just an elite freak. Because then you have to commit extra bodies to stop. You have to stop the rushing attack. And that's when he's able to unleash the ball down the field. That's when he's able to kind of get everybody else involved, because it's with James Cook and Josh Allen, those two, that's the double-headed monster in the backfield. But it's kind of a committee approach everywhere else for the Bills, right? But there's a reason the Bills have 53 explosive plays this season. Atlanta's been not great in this regard. They've given up some explosive plays. They've given up 19 of them. But you have to be willing to stop the run. You have to stop the run if you're going to give yourself the opportunity to stop everything else. Because if they start getting that run going, if they start getting that explosive pass game going, it's going to be kind of brutal. I see hopeful 7. Let's go Falcons. Yeah, that's it. And Ray, what a BGC. Welcome in. Thank you so much. Very excited for all you Falcons folks in here. Talking a little Falcons football. We got our 3 keys that I'm rolling through. How do the Falcons beat the Buffalo Bills? What's the important thing for them? Young Hawaiian Kenroy says Falcons can't beat Bills. 2-4 incoming. So I see you've already lobbed in the loss of the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe not. These are also 2 teams that are the best in the NFL. But again, I think the Falcons have a fine chance of going out and actually getting a win in one of these games. And if they could split, I think that's probably your best case scenario. There's no way they sweep that, just in general. But hopeful 7 comes through, says, I think we can win, especially with the bye. I actually think that the bye week helps a little bit. And I talked about this on Tuesday. Teams who are coming off of a bye week in week 5, since they instituted the week 5 byes, have a winning percentage of about 57%. 57%. That's pretty damn good. And I like those numbers. I like those odds. They kind of play into the favor of the Atlanta Falcons, right? That equates to about 7.5 wins. We actually did the whole breakdown. We went through game by game and said, all right, is this a game that they can win? Is this a game does this make sense? And of course, every game's going to be different. Every week is different, and everything changes on a dime in this league. And that's kind of one of the reasons why it makes it so exciting. But coming off of a bye, it is an advantage. It is an advantage. You get that extra week of rest. You get that extra week of preparation. And look, I think as much anything else, it gives the Falcons an opportunity to self-scout and really look at themselves over the first 4 weeks of the season and say, hey, these are things that worked. More importantly, these are things that didn't work, right? And we'll see, again, with Zach Robinson, now he's down on the sideline. We'll see if that actually makes that big of a difference. I would say it was a pretty tangible difference against the Washington Commanders. We'll see if that continues. Now, if it does, and that's the key to unlocking this offense, then so be it. But so far, the sample size is 1 game, and that 1 game was pretty damn good. Let's get into point number 2. And again, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have anything else that you want to say or kind of maybe get featured in the podcast, drop a comment, drop a like. We'll get you in here. And super comments, of course, if you're over there on YouTube, that always will take priority number 1. If you drop one of those, I'm more than happy to push you right to the top. Let's get into point number 2. And this one, I mean, again, any team that plays the Atlanta Falcons is going to have a massive responsibility, and that is figuring out Bijan Robinson. And on the other hand, the Falcons just need to let this guy cook. We talked to him today, and it's a guy, he tells me that he says he doesn't care about stats, but the stats are really, really good for him. Good to him, right? This is a guy who could become the 4th player in NFL history to get 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in the same season. And this is one of those types of games where the good ones can jump in and really make it impacted. This is a Bills team who's susceptible to effective rushing attacks. And the Falcons have one of those. They give up 145 yards rushing per game, 5th most in the NFL so far this season. They have the worst defense in the NFL in terms of explosive runs, 27. So they're tied with the Miami Dolphins. That's not company that you want to keep, just in general. 5.6 yards per carry. Atlanta's averaging 4.3 yards per rush. This is a game where the Falcons need to establish that running game identity. But on top of that, Ed Oliver, his status is up in the air. It does not look like he is going to be playing, but Matt Milano as well is unlikely to play. And Matt Milano specifically is probably going to be the guy who is going to line up on Bijan Robinson, similar to what we saw with Bobby Wagner. And one of the big reasons why Bijan goes over 100 yards through the air is because you get him out into a swing pass and he's in space. And what are you going to do against Bijan Robinson in space? Not a whole lot. How do you get him there? You dominate your linebackers. You do that one-on-one matchup. And The thing is, once you have to account an extra body in there, if you can get him out into a swing pass and maybe you can start ripping off a couple of those plays, Bills are going to have to adjust to that. And then all of a sudden that's going to open up everything else down the field for the Atlanta Falcons. And this is one of those big things here for the Falcons. They have to figure out who this offense is. And that's point number 3. It's kind of an all-encompassing third point. So number 1 was stop the run. You got to stop the run against the Bills. Number 2, you just got to let Bijan cook. I mean, this guy is the best player in the NFL, says Raheem Morris. This is the opportunity where you really show the rest of the league, yeah, this guy's legit. But then point 3, figure out who this offense is. We started the podcast talking about just some of the overarching inconsistencies of this Falcons team, specifically the offense. I'd say the defense, we have some kind of an idea of who they are. They've been a lot more steady, a lot more consistent. The offense has been anything but. We caught a glimpse of some of the explosiveness last week against the Commanders in week 4. But the week before that, absolutely nothing. The week before that, you saw some really consistent offense until you got into the 20s. It's just a lot of this. It's a lot of this. And against a Bills team that's going to be able to score points, you're not going to hold the Bills down for a long time. This is a very important game for Michael Penix. They'll dare you to throw the ball deep because the Bills don't allow a lot of explosive passing. They might give it up through the ground, but it's because they play that kind of coverage where they play just not to get beat deep in that explosive passing attack. And this kind of lends itself to why they're so susceptible against the run. It's because they play back. It's because they're going to dare you to throw the ball deep. And Atlanta could end up settling to drive the length of the field. Maybe that also works out in their favor because they've shown that they're pretty effective at doing that. But the explosive passing attack, I mean, you want to see some of that because that's really where I think this offense gets unlocked. But to that end, you talk about third down efficiency. Atlanta's converting about 41% of their third downs. Buffalo's defense is allowing about 40%. So that's pretty good for the Falcons. Winning on third down is going to be important here for this team. I mean, it's important every week, but especially in a week where you're going to be facing an opponent who doesn't want to get beat deep, and you're going to have to drive the length of the field. You need to convert on third down, and that's where it comes down to Michael Penix. Look, Bijan's going to get his. Bijan is who he is. But maybe that's where we start seeing some Tyler Algier. Maybe that's when we start seeing Drake London go up and making some big plays. Kyle Pitts. That's something where you've seen a lot more of his ability to find open space and use his athleticism and speed to get down the field and make some explosive after the catch, right? But the last big thing for this all-encompassing third point about figuring out who this offense is, got to protect the football. You got to protect the football. The Falcons have 7 turnovers this season. You have 3 interceptions. You have 4 fumbles. A lot of that's on Michael Penix, but you got to protect the football better. Ball security is essential against this Bills defense. And this is a group who wants to take it over. And they do. They do. They find a lot of success in doing that and taking the ball away. I asked Michael Penix about that today, and that was his answer. I mean, I asked him about what does he take from what Drake May was able to do last week against this Bills defense. And Drake May, he extends plays. He got out of the pocket, and he made some great throws. Yes, and of course, those are going to take over on social. But he protected the ball. He kept the ball. And that's an important thing, especially for a group who wants to sit on the football and kind of keep Josh Allen off the field. It's going to be a very important thing. So those are our 3 things. Those are 3 big points here coming into this week that the Falcons need to do. Number 1, stop the run. Number 2, let Bijan cook. And number 3, figure out who this offense is aside from Bijan Robinson. You got to do it. And if you do those 3 things, I think the Falcons will actually have a pretty good shot of winning this football game. All right, let's run through some of these comments, and then I'll get into some injury reports and some other news here up at Flowery Branch. Like I mentioned, I started this podcast. I got right out of the car, sat down in the seat, hit play, and I said, let's do it. And so it's been kind of a whirlwind of a day. So I'm calibrating here with all of you here on the Falcons podcast this evening. We do this every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:00. So make sure that you set your calendars. Make sure you remind yourself, we got some Falcons conversation that we got to jump into before we jump on and turn on some Thursday night football. Play a Stats says, what's up? What's good, GC? What's up, Play a Stats? Always good to have you in here. Darnell, I love to cruise. Partridge says, we need to control the clock. Keep Josh off the field. Yep. That's it. And they're going to dare you to throw it deep. And that's one of those things where if you turn the ball over, it's because you're trying to push the ball down the field. You've seen this a little bit, and you saw it. I think the best example is probably Minnesota. I don't think that this defense necessarily is as good as that Minnesota defense is, but it's similar in the sense that they want you to push it down the field because that's when their safeties and the corners and everybody else, the secondary can kind of feast. And that's when they can take advantage of you, right? And then you start those mistakes and you start pressing and then everything else, and you have the fancy blitzes and everything else. But it could be a big opportunity here specifically for the rushing attack and Tyler Algier. If you can turn around and you can hand that ball off a bunch of times, I think that would be very good for the Falcons. Just keep that guy off the field. He's really good. That guy's just a joy to watch play football. Hopefully, Hopeful 7, I'll take a tie. No, I don't want a tie. Screw ties. No. He furthers it and he says, Bijan will be a factor in the win. Yeah, I hope it is. I honestly, because Bijan Robinson is as critical as anything for this offense and this team in general. He is that type of player, and he's quickly become that type of player. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know by saying that, but I do think that there's another gear that he can unlock. And you're starting to see some of those facets of his game. And once he gets into that consistent explosiveness that we've seen from him a little bit more this season, then he's going to start jumping into MVP discussions, offensive player of the year discussions, like things like that. And you're starting to see a little bit of it now, but I want to say that NFC Player of the Month was the first time he's ever gotten that honor. You're going to start seeing a lot more of it. And a lot of that comes back to explosiveness. Really, that's the biggest thing here. Yeah, so Rusty, 53. That came from, I can't remember who I cited that source from. It varies based off of what an explosive play is. So sometimes it can be 10-yard rushes, 15-yard receiving plays. They have a lot. Let's put it that way. They're a very explosive team. And look, I know every single person who's watching this right now has watched the Buffalo Bills play football with Josh Allen. Everybody has. They're fun. They're a great offense. They're a great team. They like to push the ball down the field, and it all starts with that guy running around like a chicken with his head cut off, man. That guy's a lot of fun. And it all starts with Josh Allen. He is the head of the snake. Terry Ward over there on YouTube. And again, if you guys have questions, I'm always happy to jump in and answer as many of these as I can. Do you think that with Jeff coming from the Bills division, would help slow down the Bills offense? Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, he was the defensive coordinator with the New York Jets for many years, with Robert Saleh, and then he was the head coach. And yeah, we talked to him today. He said very clearly that he's used to covering a guy like this and preparing for a guy like this, but it doesn't make it any easier. So unfortunately, the answer is yes and no, because a guy that is as good as Josh Allen at the quarterback position is never something that's consistent, right? He can beat you in a plethora of ways, any number of different ways. So maybe in a micro level, because he's going to be able to tell guys what they can expect. He's not going to be surprised by anything because there's probably not a whole lot that he hasn't seen, but he did joke that this is the reason that you have the bags under your eyes. This is one of those types of weeks where you have long sleepless nights trying to prepare for a guy like this because he can beat you in any type of way, right? Any kind of way. Michael Ronquillo, Atlanta Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts was mentioned to be traded to the Denver Broncos. As a Broncos fan, I say no to tight end Kyle Pitts. He deserves to be with the Atlanta Falcons. Well, deserves. I don't know about deserves. I know he was drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, and I know the Falcons are I'm starting to buy in a little bit to some of this Kyle Pitts stuff because I think they found a role for him. And that's very important for young players, especially somebody who's as old, which is not old, as old as Kyle Pitts. The guy's, 23 years old or so? I was talking to some members of the media today about it. It's a lot of it has to do with the fact that this is just a guy who he's growing up a little bit, and he's finding some of that maturity. And I think he's hitting the level. He just seems more comfortable, whether it's talking to the media, whether it's him playing out on Sundays. He seems like he's a lot more comfortable. And I think a lot of that has to come down to the fact that this is a guy who's found a strong role for himself. He has something that he does really well. He plays, he finds space. He's not going too deep. He's averaging the by far the shortest yards per air target of his career. By far the lowest. And I think that's good because that kind of helps him sit in space and find a good spot for himself. He catches the ball, he makes a play, and he turns upfield, and he can go do something with his legs. That's one thing that's been very good for him, and I'm very confident with that. What does that mean going forward? Still way too soon. We'll see down the road. All right, I'm going to turn back into some other content. If you have questions, if you have comments, you have stuff that you want to add, make sure to drop a comment. That, as always, we appreciate all likes, all subscriptions, anything else that you can do while we're just rolling here on the podcast. Thank you to all these folks. We're over 100 folks across all platforms. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If it's your first time, hope to see you again on Tuesday. Every Tuesday and Thursday we do this podcast. But let's kind of keep on rolling through here. Falcons injury updates. We talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, but we have a little bit more clarity coming in just based off of the injury reports that are now official, at least for the first day. So it's Thursday today, but technically by game week standards, it's Wednesday. So this is our first one of the week. We'll get another one tomorrow and then a final one on Saturday. And that's going to kind of give us a better idea of what we're going to see on Monday. But our full participation players, Nathan Carter, the third string running back, he had the hamstring issue. It's held him out of the last 2 games. He's full participant, so he should be back ready to roll. Taquan Graham, I was also very surprised. They had just opened up his 21-day window, full participant. Tells me he's going to be playing on Monday, excuse me. Love that. And you look at a body profile of somebody, and I asked Coach Olbrich about this as well. He's just a guy who unlocks different levels. He's got the physical traits, but he's got it up here. And he's really excited to get him in there and kind of unleashing, especially you look at what kind of run scheme that this Bills team runs. Taquan Graham is going to find a role very quickly. He's one of the only guys on this defensive line that's over 300 pounds, which is not generally a great thing. That's something that this Falcons team, I would say, needed a little bit more of, and that's something they haven't really addressed as much. But I think TQ being a full participant, it's going to be interesting what kind of roster decisions that they make, because they don't have to make those roster decisions until we get closer to game time and he's officially declared active. Then it'll probably be the weekend before we get something like that. But somebody's going to be demoted, somebody's going to get cut, and they're probably going to be added back onto practice squads and stuff like that. But elsewhere, those are our full participants. It's Nathan Carter and TQ Graham. Limited participants, Kadero Hodge. It's good to see him out there. Detrone Brooks, the cornerback, he had the concussion and a shoulder injury that he had on that scary kick return. But he should be good to go. I'm expecting that he'll be a full go on Sunday or Monday. But the big one is AJ Terrell. He was a limited participant, and based off of some conversations that we had in the locker room, he's going to be playing on Monday. That's my expectation. Again, don't know that for a beyond a shadow of a doubt fact, but I'm very confident that AJ Terrell is going to be playing on Monday. And that's something that's critical for this Falcons defense. Not even just because he's just a really talented player, but because of the amount of man coverage that teams run against the Buffalo Bills. AJ is that kind of guy where you want him to be lining up on the best player. He's that level of a cornerback, and having him back here, it's really hard to put into perspective just how meaningful he is. And D. Alford's been good. I mean, look, I know a lot of people asked about AJ Terrell, and a lot of people in this podcast and others, just in comments and Twitter and et cetera, have been very critical of D. Alford. But D played relatively well. He didn't have a great game against the Commanders, but I mean, considering the situation he was being thrust into, he did pretty well. But he played it much better against the Carolina Panthers and against the Minnesota Vikings. So, but AJ Terrell, I mean, him coming back is huge for this team. What's his 100% status? I don't know if he's 100% or what, but he was a limited participant. I did see him out there today. He did look pretty solid. But then the other news here, Clark Phillips, triceps injury. Clark Phillips just cannot stay healthy at this point. He's coming back and forth. He dealt with a lot of injuries during the summer. Let's put it that way. And then he hasn't been getting a lot of playing time. It just seems like his future with this Falcons team just doesn't seem to be very clear at this point. I don't know what it's going to look like for him moving forward. But the last one of a DNP is Darnell Mooney. And that's one that I talked about before the bye week, right? What does this Falcons team look like if he's not able to go? It's not great. I'm not super excited about that reality necessarily, because this is a team who needs him to be able to stretch the field, who needs this guy for the explosive element that's otherwise relatively lacking. We saw a little bit from Drake London with the game against the Commanders. You saw he got down for a 40-plus yard gain at one point down the sideline. It was a beautiful throw and catch between Drake and that 9-5 with Drake and Michael Penix. But Darnell Mooney's that guy. And Casey Washington is expected to be the guy who kind of steps in and plays that role. But he's not going to bring you that same explosive element that Darnell Mooney would. It's not to say that he doesn't have it in him somewhere, but based off of things that we've seen, it just hasn't been the case. But maybe the Falcons end up being a buyer when we get into the next couple of months. We've got November 4th, I believe, is the trade deadline. I would not be all that surprised if you go get a Jacoby Myers, if you go look into potential trades down the road. So maybe that's something they look into. Just depends on the status of Darnell. And again, he may even play on Monday. We don't know for a fact. We just know that he was not a participant today. Jumping back into some of these comments. Let's see. Happy Hudson says, definitely have to win the turnover battle if we were going to pull out a win. I don't think the Falcons have actually won the turnover battle at any point this season. Well, maybe against Minnesota. But outside of that, I don't think that the Falcons have, because they lost it against the Bucs. They definitely lost against the Panthers, and they won it against the Minnesota Vikings. And then I think they also lost it against the Commanders as well, I believe, or maybe they split it that way because Xavier had the interception, whatever. Point is, this is a Bills team that you need to win the turnover battle. It's a very, very important thing. So great note there, Happy Hudson. You've got it. More importantly than having takeaways, you have to protect the football. That comes down to Michael Penix. So Xavier's going to get into some situations. Jesse Bates is going to cheat up on some routes. He's going to get potentially a couple of opportunities because Josh Allen's a gunslinger. That's one thing that's very consistent. It's not uncommon that this guy throws interceptions. Falcons just have to catch the ball and put themselves in good position to do that. Happy Hudson says Buffalo has shut down tight ends this year, but I feel like Pitts lines up as a wideout, especially with Mooney looking like he might miss again. Yeah, if Darnell Mooney misses again, that's where you're going to have to see an elevation from everybody. And Kyle Pitts is one of those guys. He can play a lot of different positions. We talked about it all summer, that this is a guy who will line up and play as a wide receiver if called upon. It's not the craziest thing to think that he can do that in this game. But I think Casey Washington's probably going to be the guy that you end up looking back on this game and saying that's one of the reasons we did or did not win. Can he come in and make, and it's not that he has to come out and, have 100 yards or anything like that. I'm saying that this is a guy who has to step in and play a big role and kind of mitigate any losses that Darnell Mooney might have. Now that's assuming that Darnell Mooney doesn't even play, which we're not there yet. All right. Terry Clark over on YouTube says, I really think this game will be low scoring. Vegas has the over under at 50. But the Falcons are the number 1 D in NFL in yardage. Buffalo is number 2. Turnovers will be critical, and whoever rushes for more wins. I think ultimately the team who's able to corral the rushing attack as much as they can, more than their opponent, will win this game. I think that's probably a good way of looking at it. Again, that's not a zero-sum type of thing, so it's not like if the Bills win, that means they're automatically going to win. There are obviously a lot more factors involved in this, Terry, and that's just the nature of football, right? But no, I think that's a pretty solid indicator because it's going to give you a good look at what the rest of this game is going to look like. If the Falcons can come out and hit 150 yards on the ground, it's going to give them a really good shot to win this game. But the thing is, the Bills have given up 145 yards per game, and they're pretty damn good. They've only lost once this season, so it's not quite as cut and dry as that might be, so it's more important that the Falcons stop the run, I would say. So it's like if you can hold the Buffalo Bills maybe down to 120 yards rushing or something, 115 yards rushing, that really sets you up in a really good situation. And you win the turnover battle. That's a spot where I think the Falcons have a good shot of winning this game. But I would expect that they're going to have some kind of wrinkle or something up their sleeve for this one. Coming out of the bye week, you're playing a team who's going into a bye week, but also off of a loss. So there are a lot of different factors that are going to play their way into this game. JC730 says, how did we go from Mooney isn't supposed to miss game time to now looking like he won't play? It's not that he wasn't going to miss game time. It's just that I'm assuming you're talking about Raheem Morris's comments here, JC. And we never really had a firm answer from him. It seemed like timeline-wise, I mean, we could look at AJ Terrell. Of course, all these injuries are different. I don't want to put one-to-one in that same way, but just for the sake of a comparison, he misses 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks would put Darnell Mooney to missing this week and coming back next week, right? So we'll see what that actually ends up looking like, but maybe missing next week as well. I mean, like, it's not off the table. Hamstring injuries, soft tissue injuries in general, especially for explosive athletes like wide receivers, they're going to want to take it slow, and they're not going to want to create problems for themselves down the road, because it can very, very easily exacerbate the issue and turn into a bigger problem down the road. So I'd expect them to take their time on this. He's a DMP today. It'll be something to track throughout the course of the week. All the more reason to give us a follow. Falcons on SI, because we're going to be up there at Flowery Branch and keeping everybody updated on everything that's going on. We'll get more info on that as it comes. But my opinion, I just don't think he's going to play. That's just my opinion. He could end up suiting up. We never know. It'll be a game time decision, I think, is what you'll probably hear from Raheem Morris. He'll call it a game time decision. JC says this too over on YouTube. So excited for a primetime game against a contender, hoping we provide the national media with a good showing to become one of the premier teams. I hope so. From your mouth to God's ear, JC. From your mouth to God's ear. I think that this is a team who's plenty good, right? This is a Falcons team who's solid, right? They're just not consistent. And I think if they can come out and put on one of those good performances, I think they can garner a little bit more of that respect, and potentially that turns into something else down the road. Maybe free agents, a little bit more conversation, a little bit more buzz. All that's good for this Falcons team, just based off of where they are right now. They need as many marquee wins as they can, but more important than that, they need to start stacking wins, because this is a team who, I mean, they have playoff aspirations. Now you're playing a team with Super Bowl aspirations. See what that actually ends up looking like. But this is a Falcons team that's plenty talented. Michael Penix is a good football player. You're just going to have the ups and downs of a young quarterback. Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the NFL right now. Drake London is an elite wide receiver one. He's a top guy, but can he get to that Jamar Chase level? Can he get to that A.J. Brown, that Justin Jefferson? Can he get to that? He's not there yet. Can he get there? And playing Monday night games, especially Monday night games at home, is a really big opportunity. I want to say this is the first Monday night game that I can remember since the Benz opened and they played the Philadelphia Eagles. Was that Julio Jones game at home, not on the road? I'm saying physically at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I want to say since 2018 that they played that game. I want to say that's right. It's been a long time. It's been a really long time. They played the Sunday night game. They played the Kansas City Chiefs, but there's something different about Monday Night Football. And now, again, you're going to have two teams playing on Monday night, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. That's going to be it for us here on the podcast tonight. Big thank you to all the wonderful folks who asked some great questions. We heard from all kinds of people: Terry Clark, JC, Happy Hudson, Michael Ronquillo, Hopefully Hopeful 7, Play Stats, all kinds of great folks. Very much appreciate you guys jumping in here, making your presence felt here on the podcast. We do this every single Tuesday and every single Thursday at 6 o'clock. So try to get 30 minutes to an hour here with you and just trying to talk some Falcons and, maybe get some of these vibes kind of rolling, but I really appreciate all of you guys who jumped in here. Scott and Nick, they're going to be going live at 8:30 on Monday. So make sure that you jump in there and follow them and kind of get things going with them as well. Give me a follow at GChapATL on Twitter. Best way to stay up to date on everything that we've got coming out. I got a couple features that are going to be coming your way as we prepare for the game on Monday night. Very excited about this one. Very excited for the opportunity. But best way to follow is at GChapATL, but you can also head over to Falcons on SI, si.com/NFL/Falcons to get your fix there too. My name is Garrett Chapman for Falcons on SI. This is the Falcons Podcast with your host, Garrett Chapman. Until next time, go Falcons.